Welcome to the Fantasy Happy Hour. Fantasy Happy Hour. Presented by Sportsneak. With your hosts, Justin Sauce and Terry Licious. Starting in 3, 2, 1.
Boom. Here we go. Week 14, episode 92. We got a decent Thursday nighter, kind of a disappointing two teams that are having tough years, but maybe this one will be an exciting Thursday. We got the Las Vegas Raiders 5-7 versus the 3-9 LA Rams coming off the Super Bowl hangover, and it sure looks like they are hung titties. Raiders coming off a big dub to the other LA team, 27-20. They're making some moves, I guess. Still kind of fighting for a spot potentially. We'll see. LA Rams coming off a big L to the Seattle Seahawks, 27-23 in a tight one. Taryn, what do you got for this Thursday nighter?
Well, we got to start by noting this is like a Rams team that's a bit of a shell of itself. There's a lot of injuries across the board here in the Rams. You know, there's no Stafford, no Kupp, Skowronek's out, who's their second wide receiver. Allen Robinson's out. Aaron Donald's out. Like, there's not a lot of guys playing who you expected to be playing for the Rams. This is kind of an interesting, should be fun, I think. It should be a fun Thursday nighter. Raiders decided to turn on the Jets here, coming a bit too late in their season, which is the problem. They're starting to look good again. They got lots movement with Jacobs and Adams both playing really well, but they might just be a bit too late to the note to catch the playoffs. But I mean, I think they still have a chance, but it's a long shot here at this point in the season with only 6 games left, 6 weeks. So a couple notes. There is some serious air yards to go around here. These are two very poor pass defenses. The run D on both sides is okay. The Raiders, it's middling. The Rams has actually been quite good, even though they've been losing most games. So, I mean, the other big injury here before I get going into players is John Wolford's status. He's the quarterback that should be starting for the Rams. He might not start. He's questionable, and it's a bit uncertain because he didn't practice on Monday. So Perkins might play, who's very prone to throwing the ball to the other team and kind of not the best passer. So that could change kind of your outlook on this game. But, you know, these are two pass defenses that are easily attackable. So both quarterbacks certainly in play, whoever is starting. Derek Carr, I think, comes in waves, but I think this is a game he could definitely, have a great game, have that 20, 25 points that he usually puts up. But to me, the beneficiary is always Davante Adams here. Every time Carr is blown up this season, Davante Adams has had 2 touchdowns and well over 100. Usually around 170. So I think if you're going to stack the two, Davante Adams certainly a better captain play than Carr. Now, I don't see any quarterback or cornerback defending Adams here. I think he's going to basically have a free throwing lane. No defensive line in Aaron Donald, really. So, like, this is going to be an easy matchup against a relatively poor pass D. So I lean Carr. The other side, it's hard to predict right now. Wolford being maybe playing, he hasn't been great. Perkins came in there for one game, threw a bunch of picks. It wasn't great. But this is the 29th ranked fastty that gives up about 350 a game. So I think you got to go or try going to them. The only thing I would note is Cam Akers has returned a bit. He got 72% of the snaps last week. They seem to be running the ball in the red zone. So you might be able to lean away from the quarterback and say that Akers has a big game, who's been also a big disappointment all season. So I think that might be the pivot, because this wide receiver group is very interesting, and I don't trust Perkins enough. The one upside to him is he runs the ball quite a bit. So that might be something you look to. But, Wolford is probably a better option to throw more in this game. But overall, that's a tough to predict scenario that I would probably try to throw into a lineup if they're playing just based on the defense. Running back, Josh Jacobs gets the Q tag early in the week, but it sounds like he's going to play. He's been phenomenal and had a Q tag pretty much the last 3 weeks, but his last 2 weeks have been really good, over 100 yards in both of those. And then he had the big week in Seattle where he walked it off in overtime for 80 yards. So this is a very concentrated Raiders offense. If you want to pick guys, it's Jacobs, it's Adams, and then Carr usually gets involved just off those two. But lately it's been Adams blowing up and Jacobs in the same game. So these are the two guys you want. for the Raiders, and then kind of who you pick outside of there seems to be kind of just a kind of a pick 'em on price, I think would be the best way to say it. So beat up D-line. I think Jacobs has another great game, and he's used a lot in the pass game. And on top of that, all three of the top, I guess, running backs listed for the Raiders are all questionable. So if he's the lone one that plays, he's going to get probably most of the usage if he didn't already get that usage. And then go to the other side, Cam Akers bumps up to 72% snaps. Like I said, he's going to see the bulk of the work. You have a few kind of rookies they might work in just to, I think the Rams are at that point where they're just kind of working in, trying guys, seeing what they have deeper in their roster. Run D, again, for the Raiders, great. Well, not great, but, better than the pass side for sure. I don't think it's anything to fear, and the way Akers has been getting used, I think this is probably the best spot to take Akers all season, I guess, at this point for the rest of the year. I had him on my fantasy roster, paid way too much fab bucks for him, so it kind of busted for me. I believe I dropped him, and now he's finally getting usage as the playoffs approach. But anyways, we'll bail on Akers. He's been kind of a bust for me. Wide receiver, tight ends, I'm just going to blend them together for this game because this too, like I said, passing is kind of the way to attack this game primarily. So if we go to the Raiders side, Adams, clear number one. I think he's the lock. He's probably going to get 90% ownership in this slate. I don't think they have anybody who's going to be able to defend him. And even if Ramsey's in the game, I don't think he does it. I didn't see if he's hurt. I think he is hurt, but he's going to be high owned. So I guess that's the fade if you want to fade. Matt Collins has showed a lot of spark as the second guy in with Hunter Renfrow out. So he's a great double stack if you're going that way in this game. The problem is that to get Adams and Jacobs and Hollins, you're going to need to take 200 guys, I think, to get that in your lineup. So it doesn't really work. So I think you either lean full passing and fade Jacobs, or you go kind of Jacobs, Adams, and Carr all together. I like the double stack, though, of either going Hollins, Adams, and Carr, or maybe Adams and Foster Moreau, because he's also been, very good in the backup tight end role with Waller out. And then if you try to go deeper, I tried to find guys here, but Keelan Cole's seeing the field a lot more as the third wide receiver here. He's also always been known as kind of a deep guy. So he's going to just run a bunch of deep pass routes. And if he catches the one, but lately it's been Devontae Adams walking those 50, 40 yarders in. So I don't think you're going to see much, but if you do, it'll be that one that gets you a big points and showdown. Go to the other side. Q-tag on Skowronek. So your top three is Skowronek if he plays, Jefferson, Brandon Powell, and Tutu Atwell. So if you haven't heard of any of these guys, I understand. But Van Jefferson was supposed to be kind of that number two guy behind Cup for a while, but it seems as though he's just not getting as much usage. He's starting to see it again because there's just no one else. He's kind of that lead option. But Powell comes in, gets 4 targets, and Tutu Atwell seeing 2 to 4 targets, and Jefferson seeing about 5. So, I mean, there's kind of a mix across the board here. It's a good passing game, but who do you take? I think I like Tutu Atwell. He's a gadget player, so he runs a lot of, out of the backfield jet sweeps, and he's a speedster, so he's almost only going to catch 30-yard gains. So in Showdown, I really like him as an option. So I think those are... You got to take your pick as a wide receiver on this side and just hope for the best. But Atwell's my favorite. And then Higbee's a safe bet. Higbee and Jefferson are kind of the safe guys if you want to take, a wide receiver on the Rams side. But overall, it's just pick and play and run with it. But we'll pass to you for kickers because I think I'm done.
Well, thanks for the insight there, Terry, and some great analysis. Let's start on Vegas' side of the ball. We got Daniel Carlson, a classic, coming in at $6,300. Having a D season in the kicking spot here. He's 89.3% on completions, which is good for 25 field goals this year. Nailing a 57 yarder as the long on the season with over 8 made that are all beyond 50 yards. So great for your DK points right there. Averaging 9.8 fantasy points per game. Only 1 missed extra point, so crushing those. If we go to his last 3 games, his average here, he's sitting at about 12 fantasy points per game, so pretty good value, especially in maybe even a game like this where you're grasping at straws for some of the players on the other side. And he's nailed 3+ 50 yarders in the last 3 weeks here. So good pick. Like him, safe bet. However, I think I would on this week, I would lean to the other side of the ball. We have Matt Gay coming in at $6,000. 94% on field goals this year, which is good for 18 of 19, and nailing a 58 yarder as the long. He's only hit 3 or had 3 opportunities to hit 50+ yarders. However, if we're looking at the last 3 games here, especially with how injured they are, 2 of those 3 have come in the last 3 weeks. He's averaging 10 fantasy points per game. His average on the season 7. So he's really picking up and getting a lot of use here these last few weeks. So I think I would lean on that side of the ball, especially if you're unsure of who to take and the prices on the other side, or, iffy. There's a lot of options to gamble here. So I do really like Matt Gay. Probably traditionally, if the Rams were having a normal season for themselves, then, I'd lean the other side. But this week, I think I'm going that way. I mean, you could also put both in. I don't know if it would hurt. There's probably going to be a few lineups where that's going to hit some money. So, especially if we're getting a game much like the 2 teams had this past weekend, a 27-23, 27-20 type game, you'll be sitting in a good spot here. Anything else to add in on this week 14 here, Taryn?
No, I think one defense is in play to me, and that's possibly the Raiders. Just if Perkins, Wolford, they've been a little bit up and down. Like Wolford 2 picks last week, and then Perkins, when he came in, I think had 2 or 3. So there's some room that if they run that one back for a pick 6, that one of these defenses could be in play. So use them as kind of a price savings option along with kickers. But overall, it's a fun one. Lots of rookies.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for tuning in here. We'll see you next Monday. Hopefully we'll get back on a little bit more of a normal schedule. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Let us know what you're taking in the comments. We've had some great comments lately, some good engagement on there. So we thank everyone who gets this far and leaves a comment. And if you really enjoy the content, subscribe. It would be nice to hit 300 before the end of the football season. That'd be a nice little round number there. But yeah, we'll see you next week. Have a good one, folks. Don't be like the Texans offense and give up 2 defensive touchdowns. Peace.